everybody give Yann a really warm welcome and as our first speaker for tonight.
Thank you. Giant underwater robots. Hurrah. So this is not work I've done for Firmamentum. This is work I've done for two companies. One was called Isotech Oil and Gas, which doesn't exist anymore. The other was called Statoil, which doesn't exist anymore. It's now Equinor because they want to greenwash the fact that we're responsible for global warming. I thought that would go worse than I did. So why do we need giant underwater robots? Well, we have oil and gas being carried by underwater pipelines. For example, Nord Stream. For those who have extremely good eyesight, this is a map of the North Sea with some of them. Some of them break or are sabotaged and need repairing. So here's a Christmas quiz for you. How long do you think between someone being told there's a pipeline needing repairing and a ship being ready to go takes for an emergency repair? Let's say more or less than a month. So who thinks less than a month? Hands up, hands up. Right, you're wrong. 45 days. So yeah, and sometimes those pipes need to be split. So they can go to two different places, or they can be fed from two different places. And how do we do that when they're underwater? Well, with giant robots. So this is a ship we take to go and do things. The shifts are 12 hours on, 12 hours off. The internet is through a satellite, which is okay for most things, up until the iPhone decides to update, and then nobody has internet for ages. And the food is excellent. It's really good. And if you have even better eyesight, you can see little containers here, which are where people work. And that's what it looks inside. There's lots of monitors, there's lots of keyboards, there's lots of good old-fashioned panels with dials and switches, which go click. It's very satisfying. As we're in a tech event, most of us, all of us computers run Linux. Most of the software was a mix of C++ and Python, mostly Python, and GTK for those of you who are really geeky. And it's in a cargo container. You've seen cargo containers. You close the door, you're surrounded by metal, you get no signals out. So all the signals are coming through cables, which go all the way to the bottom of the sea. And it's great, it's cozy, and you get kind of sleepy when the door's closed. Up until the guy who deals with the gas turns up and switches some things, and you wake up and you realize that next time you're getting a bit sleepy, maybe you should tell somebody before you go to sleep. Not a joke. So what does it look under the sea? So you have this giant pipe under the sea, and you bring another pipe to do something with it. Say, weld two pipes together. So you drop these things first. Those are called H-frames because they look like an H. The naming convention is really hard. And they have a big claw, and that claw just picks up the pipe and moves it. They can move it sideways, you can move it a little bit forward and back, but mostly sideways and up and down. You have another one at the other side, which grabs the other pipe, and eventually you meet them in the middle, and the little drones have cameras, and you can look at how this moves. Now, when I say this is a giant underwater robot, a guy would be about this size. This is about 4 stories high. So they're big. The thing which is missing from this picture is fish. You put light under the sea and you have fishes. Millions of little things. So once you've got this, you drop this bit in, which is called the habitat. So it goes around the pipe, isolate the bit you want to weld together, and put lots of air in and overpressurize it so all the sea goes to the side. Then you drop that little bit, which contains the weld head. So again, if you imagine a person would be kind of that size, so still big. What does the weld head look like? It looks like this. So that's a CAD-generated image. So you've got your pipe, and this thing comes in and goes around it. And inside, there's another section which moves around. And at one end, there's a weld head. At the other hand, there's a camera, and there's other bits. And these bits come in first, and these two copper things are heat elements. Because when you weld metal, it needs to be at a certain temperature for it to work. And of course, your pipe is attached to the biggest heat sink in the world, the ocean. So you're pouring heat into this thing as much as you can to get that little bit in the middle at a constant temperature. The rest, you don't care. But it goes quite hot. And then you start welding. So this is what it looks like in real life. So the gray bit is that claw bit, and this bit is the bit with the weld head. In fact, the weld head is just right here. You can't have it completely free rotating because you've got all the cables for power, the optic cables for the cameras, and the wire spool for the welding. So it's a bit tricky to know where it is. There are sensors on it, but not many. Because shockingly enough, those sensors need to work at 1,000 meters under the sea. Most sensors don't do that very well. So what happens? You start welding. Lovely computer-generated image from the movie I couldn't show you. So you start at the top of your pipe, you go round, weld, come back, and weld the other side. You think that's it? No, that's one pass. Then you start again and you do all these passes up until all that area from here to here is covered. That takes about 24 hours of constant welding. So inside this cabin, there's weld engineers which look voltage moving on a screen, or generally they just look at a needle moving and they have two controls to add voltage or lower it. And this thing is just going on and welding. Now the weld head needs changing from time to time because it will burn out. And eventually you get something like this. So those are actually real picture of welds. You can see there's just lots of layers. And a lot of it has to do with how the weld will keep its shape under pressure and over time. So that takes about 24 hours of welding, if everything goes right. If it goes wrong and you have to fix it, well, you have to grind it all out and start again. And people are very grumpy when that happens because they have to spend another 12 hours doing welding. And after that, you pack everything up, go home, and that's about 2 to 3 weeks. And that's why we have giant underwater robots. Thank you.